just let him know your name and you're good.
All righty.
Yep. And
It's Oliver's here.
All right. Who else do we got here? Go ahead and shout out your name.
That's
yeah.
your name.
Tavion.
What's up, Tavion?
Oh yeah. Chris.
Chris?
Dakota.
Brendan?
Natalie.
Oh.
Cole?
Chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
We have one more coming.
And we got one more coming?
David's here. Yeah.
David. All right, folks.
You look Dave. He said, yeah. Yep, I see it.
All right. So let's get started. Anybody in here ever make an amends before for this type of amends in recovery or whatever?
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Ones that I think will go bad, go well, go bad.
Oh, okay. All right. Good knowledge right there. Anybody else?
They've already moved on. Want nothing to do with me.
Ooh. Okay. All right.
They moved on and they don't care. And I'm trying to go back, try to make amends to my ex-girlfriend, and it was a bad situation. I was like, look, I was immature. I'm sorry. And I shouldn't have treated you. I shouldn't have made you feel this way. I should have been more. And I was laying everything out there. And she was like, I don't care. I already moved on. I don't care. I'm like, thanks. That makes me feel a lot better. She's on her second kid now, or she's about to have her second kid. And she's like, I got bigger things in life. I'm like, thanks. Because, it's been 4 years and I'm still over here miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But to the sponsor about it. No. But then, after we were she was coming back to me for money too. She was like, I got a court and I need help pay these fees and stuff. I'm like, sure, I'll help you. And then I'm like, hey, you know how I feel about what happened, right? And she's like, well, whatever, I'm over it. And she was like, stop talking to me. I'm like, you know what? After that, I was just like, everything clicked off for her. I don't even care about her anymore. So it's in the past, right?
Mm-hmm. Damn. Okay. So you definitely have some experience with this. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? What's your experience with trying to make amends? Positive, negative?
My experience was on my bad. I just made the amends that I knew were going to be not that bad. And I was too scared to do the ones that really needed to be done. Didn't all work out for me because the ones that really did people wrong, I was like, I'm scared what they're gonna be, so I'm just gonna maybe do it later. But the ones that I did do, I had one person that was he just never talked to me again. It was there. But the rest of the people were quite a few.
Okay, so most of the people accepted it, but there were one or two who were like, I don't ever want to see you again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Thank you for sharing.
My experience has been that I get to make amends once. The first time I went around doing a 9-step and making amends, everybody was very supportive, and everybody's like, just don't do it again, and I like the way you're living now, and everything's great, everything's peaches and roses. Then I relapsed, and then everybody's like, stay the fuck away from me. Now we realize it's just another time to say you're sorry.
So you took the one opportunity to make this amends to not be like the other ones, and it fucking ended up becoming just like the other ones?
Well, see, yeah. So, like, when I was in sobriety and actually going through the steps, I made the amends, and it went well. And it went well while I was in sobriety. But when I stopped working the program and went back out, and then got to a ninth step again, everybody's like, "Yeah, thanks. I don't really want to hear it."
When
And
you,
then, of course, there was the one I told you about with my mother-in-law.
oh, yes,
That's really bad.
when you go back out, how does your ability to like practice the 10th step get impacted? So, the 10th step is promptly making amends whenever we recognize we cause harm. Does relapsing impact that ability?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, because I don't relapse like, hey, I drank for 2 days and oh man, and you get back on the wagon and everything's good again. It is, I go big or go home. I burn all the shit down and then end up waking up in Kansas and not knowing how I got there.
Mm,
That's what relapse looks like.
gotcha.
So, I mean, I've only done the ninth step twice. Once when I was in recovery for almost 5 years. Well, I did it way before I hit 5 years, and then when I went back out and came back in, I was in a program that was 6 to 9 months, and I went through the steps with a sponsor there, and when I started to make amends, it didn't go well, and that's what especially make amends to my mother-in-law, who said, I said, what can I do to make this right? And her response was, get the hell away from my wife and grandchildren and never come near them again. That's when you get to make it right. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was not told by my sponsor how you respond when what they tell you to do to make it right isn't something you're willing to do. But it turned out that it was exactly what I did.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to anticipate how these amends are going to go, and the way that we feel before the amends may be different than how we feel during the amends, maybe different than how we feel after the amends. So you're seeing a whole range of emotions while we're trying to do this. But thank you for sharing. Anybody else experience with making amends? Okay, so let's kind of. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Sorry.
But I tried to make amends too early. Basically, they weren't trying to hear it. They was asking for stuff I couldn't get back, basically. But after some time, they came to me and I guess you could say made amends. But I don't know, it made me feel kind of good that they were able to come to me instead of me having to go to them.
So you made an amends. They ended up treating you bad during that amends process and ended up coming and giving you an amends.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude, that's some wild shit right there. That to me is that's an impact. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to get into kind of a long discussion. Not long. It's going to be brief. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be great, engaging and all that. Little lesson on amends. If you disagree, agree, have a question, have an anecdote, want to tell me a story, a metaphor, an analogy, cut me off and raise your hand. Okay. I am happy to have a discussion about these things. I'm extremely open-minded, and these amends are not cookie cutter. You know, they're not one size fits all. They're not, this is exactly what's going to happen. You know, some of the steps may be like that. Like step one is pretty basic. You know, you're just taking a mini inventory of how your life had become unmanageable and you're powerless. This is a little bit different, right? Our amends is not something where we have a list of people and we go one by one saying, hey, I wanted to let you know that I'm sorry for A, B, and C, and thank you so much, but I have to go. I have another amends at, 1:30, so I got to go make it to that. Hey, how's it going? I wanted to say I'm sorry for A, B, and C. Just want to let you know that, but I got to go. I have another amends at 2. Hey, it's not like we're just going, crossing names off a list, making these amends. As a matter of fact, the amends list is something that may be around for quite some time, and us making the amends may only happen where it's possible. Okay. Sometimes it's just not possible. It's not the time, it's not the place, it's not the circumstance, or something like that. So what we're going to look at here is everything we can about amends. So let me first off get my my literature ready. So the 9th step reads as, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So we made direct amends wherever possible to such people. The people that we're making amends to are the ones that we have harmed from our active addiction. We talked last week about different levels of harm that could occur. You could imagine extreme harm, abusing someone, violently hurting someone, torture, etc., etc. But what are the many basic, levels of harm? Attitude could be harm, lying, manipulation, evasiveness, having some character defects or some shortcomings, certain mental and moral qualities. These may also be harm caused, and we're the ones who have to not only identify the harm we cause, but become willing to make direct amends to these people. Now, what is an amends? An amends is, by definition, let's go here, let's stretch this out. Amends is, to amend something means to make minor changes in order to make something more accurate, more up to date, fairer. More accurate, more up to date, or fairer. That word fairer sticks out to me a lot because fairness, like when someone is treated unfairly, the emotion that is caused is resentment. So when someone is treated unfairly, they become resentful. In order to alleviate resentment, let's call resentment by definition. All right. Resentment by definition is a unpleasant feeling caused by anger. Hold on. Resentment is bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. So when someone is resentful, they have this bitter anger or annoyance that is provoked by being treated unfairly. That's what indignation means. Annoyance or anger provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Our perception is important in this because we may perceive that we were treated unfairly. People were making amends to may perceive that the way we treated the relationship in the past was not fair. We're not condoning that it was fair here. We're recognizing that it was unfair, and we are trying to do and recognize whatever changes need to be made in order to make it more fair, right? Well, what do I need to do to make this better, or whatever the case may be? And this is in an effort to seek forgiveness. To forgive someone means to stop feeling angry or resentful for a one mistake, flaw, or offense. So before we are even able to seek forgiveness from another person, we must forgive ourselves. Okay. So before we begin seeking amends from other people, we need to make some direct amends to ourselves and make some minor changes before I can accept or get someone to see. I mean, this isn't true. Somebody could already see this. All right. Somebody could already see my addiction as a mistake, which it is. I don't think people chose to become addicts. I don't think we chose to go into physical withdrawals. I don't think we chose to ruin aspects of our lives or get DUIs. I don't think people who die of overdose choose to die. And I don't even think that we may even choose to use at some point as a result of, the way that drugs impacts our brain and our body and causes us to continue to use, which would make becoming an addict a mistake. I never signed up for that. It's not like I chose that, And some people are unable to forgive themselves for things they've done in the past, right? Like some of us are unable to forgive ourselves for how we treated relationships. We're unable to forgive ourselves for how we responded in situations, getting a DUI, never graduating school, whatever the fucking instance may be. We're unable to stop feeling angry or resentful for ourselves. We can't even forgive ourselves. How am I going to expect somebody else to forgive me? I need to see how my own behavior was a mistake, flaw, or offense. And until then, I may have a more difficult time forgiving myself and seeking forgiveness from other people, which means I still think that I treated myself unfairly. Now, that is an inaccurate way to view the concept of addiction. Like, that is not an accurate way of understanding. We need a more up-to-date view of addiction, of ourselves. Now, there are many different ways that you can acquire this understanding. I mean, therapy, school, whatever you choose to do to come to understand how your addiction was a mistake, flaw, or offense. One way that works very well for most people is working the steps, working a 12-step program. Okay. Now, people who, from working a 12-step program, you can discover how your addiction and all the things that happened were mistakes, they were flaws, they were offenses that I never chose to do. And we hopefully haven't been engaging in that, etc., etc. Now, this takes time, this takes effort. And these are not major changes that are occurring. These are minor changes, almost like daily changes, right? Like, in order to stop feeling angry, resentful for a mistake, flaw, or offense, in order to try to make an amends to myself, it's on a foundation of many minor changes compounded over a period of time. Major changes can lead to an ability to make an amends, but most amends are made on minor changes. Like, maybe the major thing we need to make an amends for is 30 years of alcoholism, or several years of drug addiction, or however you would like to classify it. I don't think that going to treatment or detox or doing a 60 days in rehab is a minor change. I consider going to rehab a major change. That's just me. You know, you're literally abandoning most responsibilities to hospitalize yourself to hopefully one day at a time change yourself into who you were before, restoring ourselves to sanity, which would make rehab not a solid foundation on which to make an amends. These need to be minor changes, right? Over an extended period. Hopefully, as a result of being in rehab, we have a more accurate understanding of our addiction, more accurate understanding of mental health, perhaps, more accurate understanding of harm caused, of character defects, shortcomings. And those are important because those may have caused harm. And if I have not acknowledged or recognized those as harmful, or I haven't been able to forgive myself for that harm caused, then it may be difficult to make these amends. In addition to more up to date. So when we make these minor changes in our lives, hopefully you become a more up to date version of ourselves, right? Like maybe I start acting like a fucking 30-year-old. You know what I mean? Maybe I start acting my age. Maybe there's a more up-to-date version of my thinking, of my morals. You know what I mean? Maybe some of the thoughts and views on the world I have were developed when I was a teenager, and I have been unable to extract these from my mind. In addition, making minor changes to make something fairer. We're talking about perhaps some financial amends, right? A lot of people may view financial amends as a major change, like paying back a large lump sum, when most of the debt that is paid off, not only in recovery, but for anyone who's trying to pay off debt in a responsible, manageable way, will make minor payments monthly to amend the debt owed. All right. So this is just a brief understanding of amends and how resentment is a major role in it, because until we can start seeing ourselves and how we behave as a flaw, offense, or mistake, it's going to be difficult to make amends to ourselves and in turn seek amends from other people. We need to be able to forgive ourselves. Now, how do the amends that we're making here is for all, who knows how long we've been acting this way, for a lot of the behaviors we've done in active addiction and beyond. So we are amending. This is a timeline, today. I mean, you're making, maybe if you did some shit today, you would be making an amends for it. I mean, it's not only making an amends for the things we've done in the past. Part of this amends may be something we did last week. Maybe something we did in recovery. That would suck if we have to make amends for something that we did in recovery. How far back are we going? I don't know. That's very individualized, And am I even going to make this amends, or is it going to injure them more? Is talking about this and bringing this up, maybe they didn't even know about the harm caused. Is bringing up this harm that I caused gonna cause more harm? And we are also the ones included in, if it would injure someone, we are also people who could be injured. Like if I go to my ex, could I injure my relationship with myself? If I go to make an amends for money that I stole from a job that I had or embezzled, can I lose my job? Could I go to jail? That's why it's important to not go right into making these amends. Like once we have the amends that we have to make, a lot of people are eager, willing, and want to go make them, but we need to take time and consider all aspects of these situations before we jump right into them. The last thing we want to do is cause more harm when we're trying to make these amends. Now, why are the amends that we make here different than trying to say, I'm sorry, like we did in the past? Part of it is because the absence of repeating the same behavior. Oftentimes in active addiction, we make amends for things that we end up doing again. And the value of the words that we say are zilch. People don't trust the words that come out of our mouth. They don't believe the things that we're saying we're going to do or make these changes. Hopefully, from working steps 1 through 8 and changing yourself and being in recovery for an extended period of time, by this point, people start believing that you're in recovery. Maybe your word becomes more valuable, valid even, right? Maybe they can start to trust you a little bit more. So when you go to make these amends and you say something like, hey, I know I owe you money. I'd like to do a payment plan. Every Friday, I'll pay you $100. People may be more willing to go with that plan because they trust that you'll fulfill it. If we have not been making these changes, and it's not a major change, like somebody who is looking at a major change they may say, dude, I don't believe that hey, I want to do a payment plan. I owe you money and I'll pay you back each week or whatever the case may be. Maybe somebody doesn't trust them and they're like, well, I don't trust you. You know what I mean? So when you have the money, just pay me the money in a large lump sum. And they say something like, well, I would, they want it in like a large lump sum instead of paying in increments. Maybe the person would, not want to make those minor changes. Maybe they're not willing to, hey, maybe they're not willing to believe that they could engage in that or something like that. And the other person doesn't want to wait that long or actually trust them. That's on a foundation of how we've been behaving. Got to give me 1 second. The dog, dude. Hold on 1 second. Hey, come on. Outside. It's almost more, it's less likely, like consider the financial debt. It's less likely for somebody to have the large lump sum, right? Like I can't anticipate to pay my student loans back in one large lump sum. It's easier and more realistic for me to make minor changes to bring that debt down 1 month at a time. That's like the accurate, up-to-date way of doing it. Somebody could be overwhelmed by the large lump sum that they have to pay, that it causes them to think that they can't actually pay the debt. And the other person may not even believe that they're able to pay the debt, and they may not trust them. And that is, again, on a foundation of whatever the history was prior to that. There are 2 types of amends that we can make. There are direct amends and indirect amends. Okay. Direct amends are often the ones that we want. If you can do it, then that's the way to go about it. Face-to-face, direct amends. I'm sorry. People say that making amends isn't saying I'm sorry, but don't undervalue saying I'm sorry, dude. Like just because making an amends doesn't mean to say I'm sorry. Doesn't mean that you don't say you're fucking sorry, dude. Maybe that's what somebody wants to hear. A lot of us have these predisposed and pre-notions about what these amends should look like. But if you were just to imagine a different way of making these amends, then just maybe you'd be more willing to engage in them. Now, how does somebody come to view their addiction as a mistake, flaw, or offense that gives them the foundation on being able to stop feeling angry for these amends, right? Like somebody has to admit that they're powerless. that their lives have become unmanageable. They have to believe in some solution that they can try to make their lives better. They have to decide to do that. And they're not only deciding to do that once, they're the minor change. They're deciding to do that every single day. They're deciding to put in the action, to do the work. And they actually have to go through and inventorize their emotions like resentment, anger, fear, shame, guilt, relationships, sex, abuse, secrets, etc. They have to share that with another human being. And hopefully when you share that with another human being, you identify some patterns, right? So when you do a fourth step, you're going to do a couple things. You're going to try to find patterns. And then you're going to represent those patterns. So you're going to find patterns. So when you do your fourth step, you discover patterns about your behavior. Oh, well, when I get angry, this is how I act. When I'm treated unfairly, I act like this. When I, am hungry or, shameful or scared, this is how I act. And there's patterns that can represent that. And then you represent those patterns through behaviors and thought processes. And when you do that in a fourth step, you discover that, wow, I kind of am an asshole. I kind of do procrastinate. I can see my part in this situation. And then what we do is make assumptions. And we say, okay, if I've been acting this way towards my mother-in-law for fucking 30 years, I can assume I'm probably going to act like that again the next time. If every single time I get scared, I run away or I argue, I can assume I'm going to act that way next time. And what that does is it allows us to hopefully go back to the steps, right? I'm powerless over acting this way and these character defects. Hopefully, I come to believe there's a different way of acting or behaving that can prevent these negative things from happening, then actually deciding to go ahead and engage in that behavior. Hopefully, once we do that, character defects change. The times in which we fail to meet the standards of people, places, circumstances decreases. We don't have so many people, questioning our mental and moral quality. People aren't saying, what made you think that was a good idea? How come you thought it was a good idea? And why are they not questioning that? Because we are starting to believe that way of behavior wasn't the right way of thinking. I noticed these patterns. I'm now aware of, my own powerlessness, which in turn allows me to prevent things from happening. Like, okay, I know that like in Florida, hurricanes are coming, bro. So why don't you get some shit to protect your windows? There's no hurricane right now, but you're putting a tool in place so that's easily, accessible when you need it. So you can fucking make sure your windows don't blow out. Or the last thing you want to do is have to make an amends for not doing that before. And that's the power of these, daily amends. Like, hopefully after you make these amends, you don't want to fucking hurt this person anymore. You start thinking about your decisions a little bit more. And you, instead of acting this way, see more value in doing something else so that you're not forced into having to make an amends to this person. So we find patterns. We represent those patterns using language. And we make assumptions. One, two. Oh, fuck. I don't know what the fuck I just did. Oh, my God. Find patterns. Sorry about this, guys. Find patterns. Represent patterns using language. Make assumptions. And 4, do cool stuff. So hopefully, if you're able to identify these patterns, represent these patterns using language, and say to myself, well, I'm an asshole, or I procrastinate, or this or that. Then you're able to identify your behaviors and everything. Hopefully you can make assumptions about how you'll behave, implement tools so you can do cool shit. So you're not limited in life. You know what's fucking cool? Restoring relationships. You know what's fucking cool? Being healthy. You know what's cool? Going to a football game, going to a concert, and not drinking and not using. Why? Because I'm a fucking addict and alcoholic. And as a result of going through these steps, identifying patterns in my thoughts, I no longer think it's good to drink. I no longer think it's the right thing to engage in. So when I don't engage in that, I'm able to do cool things. How do we? Now, I'm not even. I mean, I really shouldn't even get into how do we facilitate this. It's facilitated through metaphors, analogies, and storytelling. But the real kicker is what is needed to facilitate this. Okay, what is needed to facilitate an amend? Our amends are limited only by our imagination and level of willingness. Okay, so if we can be creative enough, we can imagine ways that we can make these amends. The question is not, am I or am I not going to make this amend? It's, how am I going to make this amends? Maybe some of the ways that we make this amends is to never go back to this person, never see this person again. Indirect or direct, okay? There's two types of amends. There's the direct amends, face-to-face, like I was talking about. Then there's indirect amends. These amends are amends that we make just daily. Maybe you're making it some, like, for instance, right now people are making indirect amends because you're not directly saying you're sorry to family and friends, but through what you are doing, you are no longer causing harm. You are facilitating healing in these people's lives through changing your life itself. Now, any questions so far? Everybody kind of with me? No questions or anything so far? Comments? No? All right, raise your hand if you're with me. Hell yeah. Okay, great. Let's get into some of this literature. And then from there, I'm sure a lot of stuff will start to come up. There is a shit ton of reading, dude. Like the 9th step is 10 pages long. Okay. So today there is going to be a fair amount of reading. Most of the preceding readings that I'm going to read are examples of types of amends, situations where amends may go bad or good, etc. These are not all of the situations. These are just some situations. So let's jump in. We hear over and over that the steps are written in order for a reason. Each step provides the spiritual preparation we'll need for the following steps. Nowhere is there more apparent than in the 9th step. We would never in a million years have been able to sit down with the people we harmed and make direct amends without spiritual preparation we got from the previous steps. What is the spiritual preparation we have here? Well, let me describe to you what type of preparation you motherfuckers have been doing. All right, let me show you. Let me draw this for you. Does anybody know what the definition of the spirit is? Anybody heard me talk about that before? The spirit, I wish I could thicken this line. I don't know why it's not letting me do that, but the spirit is the seat. We'll draw a little stool here. This is a stool. The spirit is the seat for emotion and character. the spirit is the seat in which emotion and character sit. So what is the spiritual preparation we've been doing on this journey? Well, you decided to stay sober. Do you know what that means? What that means is you're going to want to get high and you're going to have to not. You know what that means? That means that you're going to be pissed off. You're going to be bored. You're going to be angry. You're going to be tired. You're going to be lonely. You're going to be fucking all the emotions that are going to drive you to use, and you're going to have to not use, which means what? I'm going to have to feel the emotion. So, and just keep in mind, this is with any journey that you're going. Let's say somebody is trying to go on a fitness journey. They want to get in shape. They want to be in better shape. Well, guess what, motherfucker? You're going to not want to go to the gym, and you're going to go to the gym. Guess what? There's no emotional eating. There's no eating because you're stressed, or eating because you're tired, or eating because you're bored, or eating because everybody else is eating. Like, if you want the results, then that's what you're going to have to do. And in the process of overcoming your desire to use in these motions, your morals around what is the right way and the wrong way to look at food or look at exercise is going to change. Maybe you think it's for exercise, right? Maybe you think it's wrong to eat an entire pizza by yourself on a Friday and Saturday night. Maybe you think it's wrong to eat an entire ice cream sundae, Uber Eats. You know, maybe your morals, maybe you think it's right to not have that big of a snack or not eat Papa John's for dinner. You know what I mean? So your morals start to change. And similarly, like if you're not using because you're stressed out or you're whatever, then you're going to think that it's maybe wrong to drink right now. Like drinking's the wrong decision. What you think is right and wrong about using is going to change, and your character is going to develop from that. And that in turn impacts your spirit. Maybe that's a chair you want to sit in. Maybe you want to sit in a chair of knowing why you feel a certain way. Maybe you want to sit in a chair of recognizing why you are who you are. And if we're not doing the work of understanding our emotions and our morals and the quality of thinking around our morals, then people may be like, I don't know why I'm pissed off. I don't know what pisses me off. I don't know why I'm depressed. I don't know why I have anxiety. I don't know why I hate myself. I don't know why I think it's right to be a victim or blame myself or it's their fault. I don't know why I think it's okay to, do this or do that. I don't know why people think I'm a piece of shit. I don't know why people don't trust me. Motherfucker, that sucks. You think you're going to want to embody that spirit? No, dude, I'm not going to want to be there. I've been there. I don't fucking like it. I don't like not knowing why I'm depressed. Nothing scarier than that. Nothing scarier than fucking being depressed and not knowing why you're depressed. And the crazy thing is, most of the time I'm thinking that in the midst of my depression. Like I'll be in active addiction. I will not know why I'm depressed in the midst of what is causing my depression. I'm laying in bed with no fucking sheets on it, in a room covered with dirty fucking clothes, haven't brushed my fucking teeth, taken a shower, and God knows when. Nobody wants to fucking hang out with me. And I think they're the fucking reason. They're the fucking problem. Dude, talk about isolation. Here's all the reasons that I'm depressed, and I'm not willing to look at them as causations of my depression. Dude, that's fucking scary. I don't know why people look at me like I'm a piece of shit. Why do people why do people do that? Oh, dude, because you're a piece of shit. No, I'm not. Oh, fuck. What a scary place to be. Now, if you don't want to be in that place, you don't have to be. It just takes understanding, why do I feel this way? And you're going to have to identify patterns. It takes that exact same process of trying to understand, why do I feel this way? What's causing me to feel this way? Why do people think, is there something wrong with what I think is right and wrong? Is something wrong with my fucking thinking here? Gotta ask ourselves these questions. If we had not done the work of admitting our own limitations, we wouldn't now have a foundation on which to stand while we make amends. If we had not developed a relationship with a God of our understanding, we wouldn't now have faith and trust we need to work step 9. If we had not done our 4th and 5th step, we probably would still be confused about our personal responsibility. We might not even know for what we're making amends. If we hadn't developed humility in 6th and 7th, we'd probably approach our amends with self-righteousness or anger and wind up doing more damage. The willingness we gained through our acceptance of personal responsibility made it possible for us to make our 8-step list. That list was our practical preparation for working the 9th step. The final preparation we're about to do in this step, before we actually make our amends, are mostly to strengthen what is already a part of us. The level at which we're able to practice the principle of forgiveness, the depth of insight we have, and the amount of self-awareness we are able to maintain throughout the amends process will depend on our previous experiences with the steps and how much effort we're willing to put into this step. Question. Does anybody have any fears about making these amends or expectations? Any fears or expectations about making these amends?
Hey, this.
Yep. I just feel free to shout out.
Can you see me?
I can, but dude, it's so, people fucking do this shit and I call on them and they're like, no. So I'm like, I kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. My bad. That was my bad. Go ahead.
I think we all have some type of fear expectations when it comes to like making amends. But like we all want it to go like a specific type of way or a certain way. And like when it doesn't, you like kind of freeze up and don't know what to do.
So afraid we'll freeze up, get caught off guard, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what we were describing when I first said, like, have you made amends? How's that going? We're all describing moments where, bro, this did not go how I planned it to go. I didn't expect this person to say that. I didn't expect them to not forgive me. I didn't anticipate that, this, that, or the third. So anybody else fears or expectations?
My in-laws, I don't know if I want to make amends with them. I guess that might come in time, but like really the things that I did between me and my husband, but they had to deal with the aftermath, but they did favorable things, especially things that found out that they did to my daughter. So
you bring up a good point. Maybe I don't want to make the amends. Maybe they fucking had it coming. You know what I mean? Maybe
I didn't not want to go to prison as much as I did now, but I have a floor.
Right.
That's where they.
Right. Anybody else fears? Thank you for sharing.
Maybe they don't care.
I don't even care. What don't you care about? Do you not care about making
They
the?
don't care.
Oh, they don't care. Okay.
Like it doesn't matter to them, and then you won't get the.
I mean, you know, they had to deal with the aftermath, but they did, you know, they did favorable things, especially things that found out that they did to my daughter. So
you won't get the result you expected or the response you expected.
Mm-hmm. My biggest fear was more work. My biggest fear was when I go to make these amends, they're not going to accept who I've become. They're not going to accept like the change that I've made, because oftentimes when I would go make amends, they'd say something like, "Yeah, bro, no, you're doing good. You just gotta fucking get a job, bro." They'd be like, "Yeah, you're doing good. You just owe me like $1,000." Yeah, bro, we're totally happy for you. It's just like, you know, you gotta, I don't know, just some sort of more fucking work that I gotta do, you know? Bro, my dad this weekend confronted me about some shit that I had to make an amends for. Dude, oh my God. I'll share an anecdote with you guys. My dad, back in the day, my dad was a competitive bass fisherman. Anybody into bass fishing? Yeah, dude. He had a fucking skeeter. This thing was a foot off the water. He would go compete for bass fishing. When I would go fishing with him, you're going 70 miles an hour, a foot off the fucking water. You know what I mean? It's fucking insane. We could get into areas of the lake. The boat could get into areas of the lake that had a depth of 2 feet. So my dad was super into fishing. And one day I was so fucking sick, I took all of his fishing rods and I sold them at Play It Again Sports. Each rod was probably $400 a piece between the reel, the rod, and everything. And I fucking just took them all and brought them and pawned them at Play It Again Sports. I think I got fucking $50, bro. I was pissed.
You actually sold it for $50?
Yep, I did. And I remember when I sold the fishing rods, I remember I went outside and I'm waiting for them to like process it or whatever. I was actually outside debating like $50 fucking dollars, dude. Like I'm getting one bag of heroin. Like this is fucking ridiculous. And I find out in that moment that my friend actually died of an overdose. So I'm standing there debating on whether or not to sell these fishing rods to get high. And I find out that Jim Rapucci III died of an overdose. And I go in, I sell the fishing rods. And I remember, you know, my dad didn't find out until fishing season came back around. And he was like, "Dude, where are my fucking fishing rods?" And dude, nothing's worse than doing some shit like that. And you're just living in anxiety. You're just waiting for the day they find out and they call you out on it. And that day came. And I remember saying to myself, just fucking lie. Just lie. Just lie. Lie. You didn't do it. 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 Take it to the grave. 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 Just repeating that to myself as I'm going, nope. I see you. I'll get you 1 second. As I'm going, nope, 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 nope. My dad ends up thinking my sister did it for years. A couple months ago, my sister ends up dying of an overdose. And a week ago, my dad goes, "Did you take the fishing rods? Like, tell me if you took the fishing rods." And I made the amends. And I'm like, dude, it's like I could have my dad had asked me about the fishing rods tons of times. I should have made the amends before, but I never did. And I ended up making that amends. And I said, "Yeah, Dad, I stole the fishing rods." And he was not, bro. You know, you'd think like after all these years.
How long ago was it?
10 years? I'm talking 10, bro. I've been in recovery for 8 years. So I did this over about a decade ago. And he was, dude, you would think it happened yesterday, bro. He was like, "Jimmy, that is so fucked up. I can't believe you fucking did that." And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, if you need me to pay you back, I'll pay. I didn't want to, but I said it. You know what I mean? If you need me to pay you back, I'll pay you back. And he's like, nah, where'd you sell them? I'm like, fucking play it against sports. He's like, you goddamn. He's like, how much you get for him? I'm like, don't worry about it. And I kind of like stopped it there. I'm like, he doesn't need to know all this shit. You know what I mean? But
Doesn't know you sold.
yeah, I just had to make the amends, you know. Fuck. So yeah, go ahead. I saw a hand raised.
Okay, so this is kind of embarrassing, but I have a fear of amends that I have to make because do you know what sloppy steaks are?
What is it?
Sloppy steaks.
No. Sloppy Joes?
Okay. No, sloppy. So me and my friends used to have this joke, and we would go to Texas Roadhouse and order a steak and a glass of water and pour the water on the steak and just make a big old fucking mess. And then we called it sloppy steaks. And we used to go around to steak places and do that. And then they would get really mad at us. And I feared that going back, that they would be like, get the fuck out of here. Because I have to make that amends. Because I used to be a real shit.
Yeah. Sloppy steak. So you're afraid that you won't be allowed into a Texas Roadhouse anymore.
Yeah, we used to do. No, I can go back, but just making that amends, it's been forever. But you know, going out making a scene in front of everybody and the servers and being a real dickhead because they have to clean it up because you know, we just did dumb shit like that. Sloppy steaks.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll make a suggestion.
So that they probably wouldn't. That probably have to be amends that a living amends.
Indirect.
I don't even work there now, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where maybe the way you make amends is just never doing that shit again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go there, you eat your steak, and that's it, you know? So thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Comments, anecdotes, anything like that?
You know, I've made a living amends before. Like, because the person isn't here anymore for me to make amends to. So it's like, I mean, I could like go to their grave or something like that and try to make the amends for them, but it's awkward.
Yep. Good thing to bring up. That's part of the discussion today. There's a whole part on what do we do when we make amends to someone who's passed away or something like that. So you bring up a really good part of what we're going to be talking about. All right, let me just continue on with some of this reading because we do got a lot of it. We're going to talk a little bit about the amends. This is not a step that can be neatly contained within a particular time frame. We don't write our 8-step and then resolutely start making amends, crossing completed ones off like we would items on a shopping list. In fact, many of our amends will never be finished. Our efforts will go throughout our recovery. For instance, if we owe our family amends, we will spend the rest of our lives practicing the spiritual principles that will bring real change to the way we treat people. There may be one day when we sit our families down and make a commitment to treat them differently than we have in the past, but that won't end our amends. Each day that we make an effort to refrain from hurting our families and try to practice a loving behavior with them is a day that we've continued our amends to our family or Texas Roadhouse. Just continuing to just not hurt those people and continuing with the being in recovery and just not like intentionally causing harm. Even such relatively concrete amends as paying a past due debt aren't likely to be done once and for all when the debt is paid off. Living a 9-step requires that we try not to incur new debts we can't pay. On a deeper level, we may need to look at the varieties of debt we incur. For instance, taking a favor after favor from a friend but never reciprocated, or overextended patience of people with whom we share responsibilities by not assuming our fair share. Avoiding such liabilities in the future is just as much of a part of the amends process as making regular payments to past due. So it's not only about making the amends for what we had caused, but it's also about not acquiring the need to make new amends, acquiring new debts, etc., etc. Yes, go ahead.
Is it what if you accidentally made like messed up? You still gotta make an amends for that, like shit like that. Like, ooh, I made a mistake, sorry. Just right then and there make the amends, or
Say that again. Sorry.
like after we make all our past amends and all that, like let's say we mess up again in the future, we just immediately make like, I'm sorry if that happened.
Great question. That is that's 10th step where we promptly make the amends after we cause the harm. So we continue to take this personal inventory, and when we're wrong, we promptly make that amend. Like, dude, we're not going to be perfect for the rest of our lives. You know, you may get, I mean, dude, culture is culture, you know, advertising that you may get so wound up that you make a dumb purchase. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that was stupid. You know, maybe next time I won't do something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe for me to make, I can't make an amends for the purchase I just made, but I can make an amends by not continuing to do that dumb shit, you know?
What about if, like, let's say, like, my lady's mom pisses me off and, like, really bad. I'm supposed to do it promptly, but I'm definitely not in the, like, I'm gonna be mad for a minute, like, a couple weeks.
I mean, you to the best of your ability. You know what I mean? If you are unable to not lash out in anger towards someone, maybe the best bet for you to do is walk away. And what you see is walking away prevents you from causing more harm, but there are other ways to deal with that. So that time that worked, but there is a more responsible, productive way of going about it. And the next time that happens, let me try that. You know what I mean? And maybe that is making the amends right there, right then, when you have the opportunity instead of leaving. And what does that require? It requires you to manage your emotions. It requires you to think differently about what is right and wrong in that situation. And that's the spiritual preparation needed to maintain that amends. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, even though you're not going to want to say it's okay or whatever the case may be, you have to practice it. And hey, maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe you find yourself doing that. They take advantage of it and, you know, they hurt you. It's like, okay, whatever. Got to go about it a different way this time. Like, it's a literal scientific experiment that you're doing here, where you need to continuously understand data, identify patterns, you know, make assumptions and try to practice them in your daily living. So, and what you're describing, like I said, is 10th step, like promptly making that amends. And that takes a period of time to get like concrete and right. You know, you're never going to be perfect. So you can only improve.
I don't want to plan out that I'm going to be pissed off at her, but I know that it's more than likely going to happen.
Right.
And I don't want to be like waiting for the opportunity and then, you know, get pissed off. But I know that it's like, I'm not even to the amends yet, like on my steps, and she's already pissed me off a few times. I'm like, you know, beating the curve too much. Like, I'm not even to the point where I can deal with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And hey, dude, what we're doing in here isn't like, all right, now go make your amends. Like, it takes time. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of effort. So it's not going to be perfect the first time. It may not be perfect the second time, but you know, knowing that like this is a part of the journey, you're more willing to like sign up for it, you know. But I mean, you may not be ready to do it right now. That's okay, dude. You know, are you ready to walk away from the situation when you're pissed off? Try that and see how that's going. If that's
all I've had to do.
Yeah, and
it makes it seem like she's won, but I'm like, oh, it's not about winning and losing. I want to win.
And that's that's a disassociation between what you're feeling and what you're doing. Although you feel like she's winning, what you're doing is the right thing. You know what I mean? So it may be painful to walk away because of your ego or your pride or whatever the case may be, but the action you're taking is actually valuable and productive. You know, and that this is all these these are great questions, and this bouncing back is awesome because it's all 10-step stuff. So all the stuff that you're thinking of and talking about is what we're going to be talking about next week. You know, the main thing we're focused on is this large amends, you know, and maybe it's an indirect one with something like the mother-in-law, you know what I mean? And that's our amends that we make indirectly to them is only limited by our imagination and our level of willingness. So we're going to jump deeper into it, but there is a way of going about it, and we got to be willing to like take that action. We're going to take a break real quick. I would like to thank everybody for sharing, being productive, not engaging in side conversation. And it is very helpful to the group and our ability to stay focused. So when you come back, make sure you maintain that same energy, staying focused, off the phones, no side conversation, so on and so forth. Come back at 2:30, and we're going to continue on with our 9-step and hopefully get into the difference between direct and indirect amends. Awesome.
You've seen this?